She also mentioned drinking structured water and getting enough sleep alongside breathing properly, and that's not through the nose, starting that again.
Hi, I'm Carla. You're listening to Free2BCurious. I've named this podcast after the values of freedom and curiosity. These inform and motivate the self-directed lifestyle choices that my family and I enjoy. I hope my guests inspire you as much as they inspire me.
Our episode today marks the conclusion of Season 1 of the Free2BCurious podcast. I'm so grateful that Season 1 even happened, and I really want to thank you, our audience, for listening and watching and corresponding with us. I'm super psyched that we have already started recording Season 2, which will be coming out at the beginning of June. On that happy note, here is a recap of Season 1. Our first guest was Lior Losinsky on holistic wellness. We spoke about Lior's work at his Best Life Clinic, about healing the body and mind, healing from trauma, things to do with nutrition, the microbiome, energy therapies, and much more. We also spoke about the work that Lior himself does in energy therapy, what painless trauma release looks like, his energy therapy modalities, how energy therapies work, the psych, starvation, poison triangle, the subconscious mind and healing, energy coherence and incoherence, germ versus terrain theories, the microbiome and human ecology, and the consciousness of all our organisms in our body. As Lior said, we really don't even know who is doing our thinking for us. We really went on a journey about nutrition and the Weston A. Price Foundation, which is my personal favorite source for propaganda-free, trend immune, real, accurate, and factual information on nutrition and health. We touched on grounding, sunshine, and water, just basic things like being hydrated. As Lior said, remember these simple pieces of advice to touch the earth, get some sun, and stay hydrated. We also spoke about understanding vitamin D, and there's so much more to speak about there. We'll have Lior on a dedicated episode just about vitamin D. And we also mentioned the importance of avoiding vegetable oils, which are also known as toxic industrial seed oils. Lior also differentiated for us the difference between nutritional deficiencies versus contagious disease and dysfunctional medicine versus facilitating holistic healing. A massive shout out of thanks to Lior for being so generous in sharing his knowledge. And Lior, we're really excited to host you again in an upcoming season.
Our bodies, again, can handle these things and can adapt when we put more, when we do the right things for it.
And is the right thing the nutrition and...
First thing is, start hydrating more. Okay,
That's
we go.
My structured water.
And we will talk about structured water in another day, but hydration, sunshine.
Yes.
Again, anything that they told you not to do, my rule of thumb is do it.
Go and get some sun.
Go and get as much sun as your skin can handle. Do not cover up. Do not cover up with creams. Rather wear a hat and get into shade. The only time I would ever wear cream is if I know that I cannot avoid the sun for long periods of time.
And then you could choose your cream wisely. But I was going to say, we can do a whole sunshine thing as well, and water.
So those are the things like water, grounding, getting onto the earth. Most health stories are so simple that people won't take them as real. I literally tell some of my chronic ill people, drink more water, barefoot walk on the grass for half an hour and get a half an hour of sunshine a day. Okay, just start there. And they go like, but I got high blood pressure. It's like, try that first. You'll find that your blood pressure drops away quite dramatically, just by doing that. Because everything else becomes like an added thing, because you're becoming consciously aware of how much you're drinking, what quality water you're drinking, how much sunshine you're getting, how much grounding you're getting back to the earth, getting back to being a human being.
I would add on to the 4 pieces of advice so far that I've taken, which is of such value, is cut out the vegetable oils, drink the water, get the sunshine, and touch the earth, the soil.
Yeah, exactly.
What you mentioned before. Yeah. The secret is in the soil.
Our second guest was Gareth Price, the CEO and founder of Investment. my fave local passive income platform. Gareth and I chatted about his peer-to-peer lending platform, Investment, and how to earn an exciting passive income by using crowdfunding to finance small business. We explored what this innovative fintech business is in depth, from how to use the platform to how to understand the returns. And Gareth also explained the low to medium risk nature of passive income from invoice factoring and project financing. Did I mention that investments returns are the highest interest income rate return that I have found? And I challenge those financial freedom fundies out there to find better. And if you do, please let me know. We also spoke about nurturing a savings culture among Zennials, Millennials, and Gen Zs and the relevance of that for our economy. Investment is such a fun platform to use and it can get quite competitive. And it also has a turnaround time of just 2 to 3 months to realize your investment, which I think makes it all very appealing for our instant gratification generation. One of the best parts of the conversation for me was chatting about the public's ability to purchase a share in the investment business through GoGetter, which is a crowdfunding equity raising platform that is shaking up the private equity scene in Africa. We unpack the benefits of this in the episode and the kind of gaming nature of being an owner in the business as well as using the platform so that you can win both ways. Straight after the episode, I hopped onto GoGetter and I bought some shares in Investment, and Gareth now says I can call myself his boss. On the topic of gaming, remember the various investor levels on investment, which are cumulative, meaning that as an investor, you can earn greater returns for recycling your investment funds over and over again, and obviously adding more capital if you want to. Gareth and I also touched on the appetite in the market for an alternative investment and what every SME business owner needs to hear about their personal and business growth. And we also spoke about why South Africa is brimming with opportunities and also about personal, physical, mental wellness tips and more. We covered a lot of ground in that episode. Gareth is such an enthusiastic guest with a fantastic sense of humor. I really enjoy his entertaining conversation style. He often makes me laugh about the things that he's saying. And he also has these nuggets of wisdom that he shares with business owners and investors both. The best part is Gareth is coming back in season 2 to share more wisdom with all of us. Things like his lessons, top 10 lessons he's learned from his 10 years in business, and also his tips for how to maximize your accountant's ability. Really useful stuff coming up with Gareth in season 2.
So can you maybe take us through in detail how it works on people getting their returns? I know you're on the borrower side, you've vetted the borrowers, and you know what their financials look like. That you know that it's either an invoice that we're buying, invoice factoring or project finance, and then it pops up on the platform and I see it. What is exactly is going to happen in terms of my return as an investor?
Okay, so let me just first jump in and explain those two terms. So invoice factoring and project financing,
please.
Bridge financing. Okay, so the first thing that's important here is we're not financing an idea. Okay. You can't come to me and say to me, hey, Gareth, I've got this idea. Will you please give me money? And if you give me money, I will be able to do this thing. Okay. We're not doing that. What we're doing is saying you've already secured the opportunity. You've already got the work, but you need help to action work that you've already secured. Okay. And that can happen in one of two ways. Number one, I will give you a purchase order and I will say, Carla, please will you do this thing that you do for me. And when you are done with that, you will make the thing, you will provide the service. When you are done, you will send me an invoice. Okay? But because you've got this purchase order, you've got this commitment from me to utilize your service or to buy your product, investment can advance you the money because there's this, it's already sold, it's already done. Okay, we're helping you action this piece of work. Okay. Now, in a project financing situation, you're getting the purchase order, you're doing the work, and you're invoicing later. Okay, and possibly even getting paid a month after you invoice. Okay. In an invoice factoring world, or situation, you've already sent the invoice, but you've sent the invoice now, and you're maybe only going to get paid in 5 or 6 weeks' time.
Yes.
Okay. It's in those situations that we are advancing you money that we're expecting to come in because you've already secured it. You've done the deal. You're just waiting to get paid. Okay?
Right.
We're not saying, well, if we give you the money, you will be able to get the deal. You've got the deal, so now we will give you the money.
The third episode in season 1 was one that is really close to my heart, and I just had to do a podcast episode really on self-directed education because it is the education style that we've chosen for our family, and we thoroughly enjoy it, we love it, and we live these values of self-directed education every day. But I often get a lot of questions from people who say to me, so your kid doesn't go to school, and what are you going to do, and what about when they need to learn how to read? And so really I recorded the episode partially to have some information to share with people who are asking these very relevant and good questions, and so that I didn't have to keep repeating myself. And I also had to get an expert to come and speak on the topic, and I really think I found one of the best experts in Jana Clemens, because she really has been a thought leader in the space of self-directed education. So in that episode, Jana walked us through the basics of self-directed education from birth onwards, including topics such as play, exploration, curiosity, autonomous motivation, which is really something you've got to grok if you're going to follow a self-directed education path. She spoke about the drive for mastery, literacy and numeracy, which are things that always come up as concerns for parents or anyone following a self-directed education path. She spoke about the tools of the culture, which comes from Peter Gray's work on self-directed education. And she also spoke about other optimizing conditions for the success of this style of education. And she touched on the term modal from Daniel Greenberg's work at the Sudbury Valley School. I asked Jana some questions about how a parent should navigate the ages and stages of their child as they're self-directing learning in this model, and we also spoke about the need for parents and facilitators themselves to go through a process of de-schooling. Jana shared some information about the historic purpose of school, what the foundations for maths look like. Guess what? It's all playing and climbing and running around. She also said where reading and a sense of competence meet is when kids feel that they can do it. And she spoke about the big and growing self-directed education community, which we are luckily part of. Jana gave really great information for what a parent's role looks like in the process of self-directed education, and she answered the question of what university looks like for self-directed students and where this dovetails with the latest career counseling thought leadership. She also mentioned where to begin with self-directed education, and she differentiated really importantly between creative boredom and understimulated boredom. We also chatted about the founding of Riverstone Village, which is a democratic self-directed education community in Joburg in South Africa. So Jana's just a guest who offers a lot of meaningful insights that are well researched into self-directed education in a really easy to listen to conversational style, and the episode will have a superb impact on anyone who is already following a self-directed approach to education, has never heard of self-directed education, is terrified by the idea of self-directed education, or just simply wants to have more information. So how would you say we define ages and stages for children, and the amount of playing and the amount of sitting and the amount of reading? How does a parent sort of navigate that space? Okay, now my child is 6. They must start learning how to read and write. Or now my child is 9. They must stop playing all day. Or they're little, so they should be playing all day and not doing any reading. How does one navigate ages and stages as a parent or a facilitator?
I think the first thing to be aware of is that the normal ages and stages that we see are just traditions, habits, cultural decisions that are made. So, everybody's making a big noise about Finland, who, lets the kids play until about 7 before getting going. And then they have these really great superior academic outcomes because they let the kids play longer. That seems to be the rule of thumb. Each perspective has its own little thing that it says. So, Montessori will say, oh, no, they should definitely be reading by like 4. And then Waldorf says, oh, no, you shouldn't want to get them reading until like 9. And then sort of the mainstream that says, 6, 5, preparing for 6. And that keeps pulling younger. So let's notice that when you said they're allowed to play in play school, that's not true anymore. We are more and more seeing 3-year-olds being told to sit and do a worksheet. And this is a tragedy because it actually prevents the kids from creating the foundations that they need in order to learn to read and write and do maths. Most people aren't aware of what those foundations are. For example, if you don't have enough shoulder strength, you will not have enough fine muscle control in your fingers. You are not going to manage to write nicely, and now you've got dysgraphia because you never climbed enough. What does a kid want to do? They want to climb on everything all the time. No, come and sit down, do your worksheet. We need to get you reading. Maths. Why do so many people struggle with maths? The foundations for maths are laid down through movement and rhythm. Skipping, jumping, hopping, playing with loose parts. Like I'm making myself a collection of acorns here in the dust, or I'm like building a Lego thing like 20 blocks high. These are your foundations that give you the concept of quantity and how you play with space and relationship in space. So music, rhymes. Most people don't realize that music is maths. That's why, that's a genetic inheritance. Most people who are skilled in, or talented, let's say rather, in music will be talented in maths. So all of these foundations that you get through play and natural expression are shut down when we too quickly take that individual and we say, no, stop doing all that stuff. Now focus on your worksheets. The worksheets are very, very abstract.
That's so good. In the 4th episode of the Free2BCurious podcast, I hosted my really good friend, Simone Penn, who is the founder of Mother's Nature Tribe and the creator of a natural deodorant literally called Smell My Pits, or also known as the last deodorant you will ever try. And honestly, it was the last new natural deodorant I ever tried. And trust me, I had tried every single one of them. Simone took us on such a humorous journey from the conception of her deodorant business to the successful e-commerce business that she runs today on the super amazing platform called Equid, which we both really rate. So Simone just really entertained us a lot when she spoke about how her idea for the business came to her. But more importantly, she told us the importance of switching to a natural deodorant for your health. And she discussed what to expect when you switch over to a natural deodorant. And she said that the deodorant is like the prevention and the cure for body odor. She's got an excellent website with a frequently asked questions section to answer all your questions. And she also shared her super marketing tips, some of which were her hilarious viral marketing campaigns that she ran, where she stood in the street, in the community, basically saying, "You stink, try my deodorant, it will help you." So Simone also mentioned that she's got a subscription model that delivers 2 deodorant flavors to every customer that subscribes every quarter. I have used the subscription model. That's what I'm using right now, and I'm loving it because I don't need to think about buying deodorant and I don't need to plan buying deodorant. It's just arriving just about when I need it. Simone calls her deodorant types flavors on purpose because she says they're so natural that you can even eat them. They won't taste great, but you can eat her deodorant. She explained how everyone can order her deodorant and get it delivered to their doors around the world. Anyone around the world can order Smell My Pits and get it delivered to their door, not only in South Africa. And she also has an affiliate program for any influencers out there who want to promote Smell My Pits. So Simone had a very important thing to say, that the innovation related to the business and the creativity that she has around her business have all been possible because she's managed to outsource some aspects of her business and expand her team and reduce her mental load. And that's one of the most important values for Simone. She'll tell you is that mental health and reducing your mental load are like a top priority. And as usual, she was a South African guest, so I had to ask her what's keeping her in South Africa. And she said that she just sees so much potential and so many opportunities in South Africa as a business owner. And she just sees that the SME space is a juicy one. And we ended the conversation with some insights for what's next for Simone and her tenaciousness. So you can expect some great stuff coming from Smell My Pits. I highly recommend follow them on all their socials and go to their store via our podcast website to benefit from a discount coupon.
So if you use too much, you are going to offset the balance of your body, your pH, and you're going to get a reaction. And I'm really so upfront about that.
Yes, you are.
It's all plastered all over the website because firstly, I don't want to lie.
Yes.
And secondly, I feel like when your body reacts to something, you have to understand why it's doing that, and you have to listen to your body. I feel like we've become so accustomed to drowning out the messages that we receive from our bodies. You know, oh, I've got a funky smell. Clog it up. Just keep it inside. No. What is going on? Why is there that smell? Sometimes people will be like, oh God, I must, whatever the case is, I've got a different kind of odor this week, this month, this year, whatever the case is. Why?
Yes.
You know? So the reason that you may get a reaction is you okay, everything comes from the gut. I think you and I have discussed this pretty much our primary conversation for the last 6 years.
agree.
But you know, thank God it's becoming more mainstream that the gut is the second brain, and gut health and your microbiome, people are, learning more, you know, and it is becoming much more mainstream. If you are basically stunting your body's excretory system, which sweat is a huge part of, you're not going to know what's going on in your gut. You're not going to have any cues and messages to decode. So if you switch, let's say, from an antiperspirant to my deodorant, and then you break out in a thrush, like what we call thrush, it is thrush, it's a candida outbreak under your arms. This is because your microbiome is overproducing candida. You more than likely are eating too many refined sugars. And then there's also another option, which can be that there's a dormant staph bacteria in your body. And for the first time, you're allowing your body to sweat. That bacteria comes out in your sweat. For the first time ever, your underarm is what it's supposed to be, which is a moist, warm environment. That bacteria is going to duplicate and spread and cause an infection. But again, that's a message from inside your body. This is a good thing. You don't want that dormant staph bacteria now coming out, God forbid, when you have a bladder infection, hooking onto that and running riot in your body or in your kidneys, in your throat, your larynx, whatever the case is. If there's a harmful bacteria that's living dormant in your microbiome, we don't want it there. We want to know that we can clear it out. And then, just getting back to your point. So the hack there is, do not overuse the deodorant. That's number one, because then you really will screw up the pH balance under your arms, which is a very unique balance. I think it's close to 7, whereas your general pH is 5.5. Everyone, those of us in our age group will remember the Johnson's pH 5.
I remember that advert.
And then also to hold the deo to your armpit for a count of 6. Not only can that be your mindfulness moment for the day, but yes, the one that you may or may not get, but it also will use your body's natural warmth to just soften and melt the product to a point that it gives you an easy glide.
Yes. Sometimes you host a guest and you're excited to host them and you know it's going to just be beautiful, but afterwards you have fallen in love with this person all over again. And that's what happened to me when I hosted Nondi in season 1, episode 5 of the Free2BCurious podcast. Nondi is just the most beautiful person, and she's come up with the most beautiful product, which is a facial wipe that is made of a combination of bamboo and cotton, and it's reusable, and it will remove your makeup and clean your face in the kindest possible way to your body and the environment. I mean, can you even top something like this? It's one of my ultimate products. I use these facial rounds every single day, just like I use the deodorant every day. I use Nondi's No Musa Be Kind facial wipes every single day, and my kids love them as well. So Nondi came up with the idea for this product because she was living in another country. She was staying in Mozambique, and she said when she went to the shops to buy makeup remover wipes, she felt like she'd have to sell a kidney to get a packet of makeup remover wipes. And she's also someone who really values sustainability, and she really values DIY. And she thought it's wasteful to keep going and buying these makeup remover wipes and spending the money on them and then just throwing them away along with the plastic that they come wrapped in. So she started thinking of ideas, and she percolated over it for quite a while until she came back to South Africa, and she actually started her business and manufactured and found a way to find the material and source the material and find a manufacturer. She was smart enough not to decide to DIY make her facial rounds. She had them professionally made, and they're of such a high and amazing quality. You will love them. I highly, highly, highly recommend. But the one brilliant thing that I think Nondi mentioned in the podcast is that she had this great piece of advice for everyone for starting a business, and she said simply, just start. That's what she did. She never thought it would even become something as big as it is, but she started with an idea and she ran with it, and only good has come from her project. And by the way, everyone out there who's got businesses who would like to stock these facial rounds, Nomusa offers a white labeling opportunity. So any business who's stocking beauty products or that kind of product can have the Nomusa facial rounds in their own packaging. On the podcast episode, I showed everyone how fantastic the facial rounds are, how great they look even after being used and being washed. And we spoke about the little message that's on the tag of the facial round, which says, "You are enough." And who does not need that reminder every single day? The conscious consumer comes up in our conversation, and this is the consumer who values a brand like Nomusa because it's kind to our finances, it's kind to our bodies, and it's kind to the environment. And Nondi has totally grokked this conscious consumer because she's built her model very impressively to match the values of her market, which are people who are not going to want to buy a new thing every day. They're people who want to be able to use the same product for many years. And you can do that with Nomusa reusable facial rounds. So I just recommend, if you like looking after your skin, if you like feeling good, if you like seeing the message "you are enough" every single day, go over to Nomusa's online store and get yourself the Nomusa Be Kind reusable bamboo facial rounds. And you too will fall in love with Nondi and her product.
So what I did is I sat down and I looked at what do I need to run the business, right? I looked at the store, I looked at the bookkeeping, I looked at the social media marketing, I looked at all the aspects of running a business like this kind of business. And obviously the CMT, which is the cut, make, trim, which is the manufacturer that I use to manufacture the product for me. So I had to look at all of that. And then I thought, okay, the best way to do this is to build relationships with other business people. So the person that does my bookkeeping is a business person. This is her business. If I forget to send her my books, she will send me an SMS and say, your books are due, right? She doesn't work for me. I don't need to push her. She's motivated by her own business. The person that does the social media side of things, she knows by the first, everything needs to be out. If I forget to send her something, she'll be like, I'm waiting for pictures, like I'm waiting for this. And I'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry, it's coming, So I had to build that community to say, I need this person, I need that person, I need, all the different types of the aspects of the business that makes it run. The ecosystem, it's an ecosystem based on people that are also running their own business. Even the person that manufactures the product, she's got her own, she runs a business. She knows how it works. She'll say, okay, because of load shedding, I can't, my staff is working from this time till this time. And she's an amazing woman. And she's got like a structure with the staff that she has and herself as well. So she fits me in within her business. So and also there's a level of respect, when a person runs a business, they know you run a business and they know what it takes to run a business. So that is how I'm kind of getting it right. Is the fact that I've got this ecosystem of all these other women that are working towards sustainability that I'm working with, and they're running their own business and they've got a structure in place. It's a community. I'm not able to do this on my own. It will break me because there's a lot to do.
There is a lot to do. I'm just loving what I'm hearing, because honestly, I just see a very mature business person in front of me, and I only this year just figured out outsourcing. Literally my whole life, I was trying to do it all up until this year when I started a podcast, and I tried to edit it myself. And the podcast recording was 1 hour, and I spent about 3 weeks trying to edit it, and then I didn't come right, and then there were mistakes, and then I couldn't run. And then I was just like, oh wait, there's specialist skilled people who know how to edit. And it changed everything.
My first love, which has never changed in all the years, has been literature. I just love reading. I love books. I just love being immersed in a world of literature. And when I was studying my accounting degree, which was an all-consuming and very intense degree, I just decided for fun to do a small undergrad in English literature on the side. So that's what English literature actually means to me. Reading books, literature, and the creativity around a beautiful novel is something that is like very close to my heart. So can you imagine when I became a parent and the world opened up to like kidlit, children's literature, kidlit, beautiful books with amazing illustrations and beautiful stories, and it's like so exciting for me that I get to read good literature every day. I only keep good literature in the house. We do not have anything that is below a certain standard for someone who appreciates literature, and so it was very natural for me to find Ashley J's books, which are kidlit meets emotional literacy meets beautiful illustrations meets amazing story. So I interviewed Ashley J in season 1, episode 6 of the podcast. And Ashley was a phenomenal guest in the amount of knowledge that she shared for us as parents. I think as parents we are, I told Ashley, we are basically waiting for this information to come from her. She's a parent as well, and she says that she doesn't therapize her children. She's a real parent living a real life. So when Ashley offers something like a piece of advice or a tip or a bit of wisdom around parenting, it's really just worth gold. And she did a great job of providing us as parents and our kids with 3 tools in the form of her 3 children's books that she's written, which all cover things around emotional intelligence. There are 3 books out so far and more to come, which you'll hear about in the podcast episode. But there's Susie and the Worry Elephant, which helps a child with skills to deal with anxiety. And there's Toby and the Angry Bull to like find some skills to deal with when you're feeling angry. And Charlie and the Give Up Goose, which is just like when you feel like giving up, what do you do? And the funniest part is like before reading these kids' books, I don't think I had these skills to persevere and to consciously persevere and to consciously manage anger and to consciously overcome anxiety. It's not like I was a raging bull all the time, but those feelings are real for kids as well as parents. So we had Ashley on the podcast, and she took us through her journey of becoming a psychologist and then having the desire to write and then thinking about the books and then finding the most amazing illustrator in Sinead Thorpe. And she told us where we could find our books and things like that. So I really just recommend this episode for every parent. 1, to get Ashley J on your radar as like one of the best parenting experts that you can find today. And also as a brilliant author who can populate your bookshelf with books that are of a high quality in terms of the writing, beautiful illustrations that we can relate to, and they impart skills in the form of emotional literacy skills at the same time. Ashley also mentioned some things that she has in her own parenting, which is like showing a bit of gratitude, which is always a game changer. Ashley says that kids can learn that they don't need to operate on feelings alone. Like a tip to myself as well, I'm becoming less dense the more I learn from Ashley and her books. There are words and tools that we can use, like each of the characters uses in their books, to calm that feeling inside of them. And she also speaks about how feelings are there for a reason. They're a messenger. They're not the enemy. They don't need to be squashed, but they just need to be calmed down in a meaningful and effective way. We chat about how parents and kids can use these books, and you can expect some nuggets of gold around self-esteem from Ashley. And she talks about affirmations and hearing kind and compassionate words said loudly to oneself. she also explains how to do specific praise, which is praising the process that the work has taken for a child to accomplish it, as opposed to just praising the product. We just covered so much ground on self-love, body autonomy, body neutrality, and gratitude, and just so much more. Just go watch the episode. You will love it, and go and buy Ashley's books.
For me also, I'm very hectic on like gratitude, particularly the world we live in, where it's just, you're just exposed to everything all the time, and this instant gratification and this black hole. It's like never enough. It's never enough, and I've always got to look at like what other people have, and in order to kind of teach your kids to not only be grateful for the big stuff, but the small stuff, and how important that is. I'm just trying to think.
That's amazing. I want to recap. It was self-worth and self-esteem. So
self-worth.
That's when you acknowledge what effort they've put in to achieve something.
Yes.
A product,
yes.
A process like trumping the product. And then you mentioned,
Sorry, actually also one other thing on that. I'm sorry to
it.
interrupt you. One of the things I say with building self-esteem is I say to them, we talk about affirmations. And I say to kids when I do like emotional sessions and stuff at the school, I say to them, do you know who the most important voice that your brain and your heart need to hear is? Yours. And it's so important for the brain and the heart to hear you saying kind words to yourself. And I'm like, it's wonderful when people say lovely things to you, mom and dad and your teacher and people that you love. But actually your voice needs to be the loudest. Your voice needs to be the kindest. And that's another way of building that self-esteem. Talking to yourself with compassion, because I remember when I used to lecture, I did a whole thing on self-esteem with the psychology students. And one of the things we spoke about was the pathological critic, which I think I mentioned earlier, and how loud that voice can get if you give it a platform. Let the kinder voice be louder than that.
The very last episode of season 1 of our podcast ended so calmly and beautifully with Jodi Wolmer talking about breathing techniques and exercises for better health. And that topic is a very simple way of saying that Jodi took us on a breath journey. She is a respiratory physiotherapist, and this is her speciality, but she's got a very amazing and calm way of talking about breathing. And in this episode, she gave me and our listeners such practical tips on actually how to breathe properly and how to breathe better, and not just for ourselves, for our kids as well. And the whole episode was just filled with tips and hints and tricks and things to do to breathe better. Jodi has a very holistic view of the body and the mind and the breath. And she said, breathing is the first thing you do and the last thing you do. And that really put things into perspective. When you're breathing properly, you can just do so much more. So in the episode, she gave practical tips and advice, which you can watch. And she did a real life breathing assessment on me in the episode. So you can watch that assessment and you can do it yourself, and you can find out which areas of your breathing need improvement. I know that I breathe too much. I need to actually do more out breathing and less in breathing. And one of the tricks that I learned from the episode is that she said you can use imagery with your kids to help them breathe and settle their nervous system, help them self-regulate. And she said the exhalation, a slow exhalation, is really important. So you can tell them, to smell a flower. We say smell the jasmine, and then blow out the candle, which is like a long exhalation. And she said, tell your kids to make that flame on the candle dance but not go out. So there's like an element of imagery and an element of creativity and control when it comes to breath. Jodi's patients include children and teenagers with vocal cord dysfunction, sleep apnea, and ADHD. And she has even recently presented at a conference for parents with children who have ADHD. And she spoke about the integral part that breathing plays in our mood, our memory, and our concentration, as well as the management of anxiety in the patient themselves. One of Jodi's key tips for the best breathing was to breathe through your nose. And I asked her, so what happens when your nose is blocked? What then? And she gave some excellent nasal unblocking techniques that she shared on the podcast, which we do live on the podcast for you to see. And she also emphasized that the best breathing is when our exhalations are longer than our inhalations, as this calms our nervous system and puts our bodies and minds in a parasympathetic state instead of that fight or flight state which we find ourselves mostly in these days. And she emphasized one thing which I think will stick with everyone because it rhymes and it's useful, but when in doubt, breathe out. She mentioned that a number of times in the podcast. And she also said that breathing, interestingly enough, is a function of the body that works independently. You're not thinking about it while you're breathing, but one which you can also think about and control. In her truly holistic way, Jodi also elaborated on what else keeps us well. Things like the dietary principles of the Weston A. Price Foundation. As I always say, my favorite source for real, propaganda-free and trend-immune, factual nutritional advice. And she mentioned drinking structured water. Again, one of my fave things to drink. And also getting enough sleep, which I have not grokked yet in my 37 years, but I'm going to work on it. All of these things go alongside breathing properly. So it's really just a holistic view of everything. And she just emphasized breathing properly is not through the mouth and through the nose.
So some people can actually hear themselves breathing, and that's also an indicator that you're either breathing too much or too heavy. So just like you can eat too much, you can actually breathe too much. And then that throws out the balance of your oxygen that you're breathing in and the carbon dioxide that you're breathing out. And that can have a physiologically profound effect on how you function. So you want to make sure that you sort of a quiet breather. So you can always just put your finger, and kids can do this for them to understand that if you put your finger under your nose, just to feel your breath very gently, a warm sort of like feather-like tickle on the finger, that's kind of the lightness in which you should be breathing. You know, as a mom, I'm very, very passionate about raising my children to be very aware of what they eat, how they breathe, and what they drink. So I just say to Jacob, can you just, who's my 7-year-old son, pop your finger under your nose? Are you breathing like a dinosaur, or are you breathing like a little mouse? And it's kind of like mouse breathing is what you really want to be aiming for.
It's so amazing for kids.
So you don't want to be able to, you don't want to be able to hear yourself breathing. And then the fast or slow breath, you should be breathing at about, as an adult, between 10 to 12 breaths per minute. Kids are different because they haven't fully sort of finished developing their bone structure of their ribs and their muscles and their lungs. But it shouldn't be fast, and it shouldn't be through the mouth. So if you want to help children slow their breathing down, or if you want to try get them to focus on their inhale, you can make it fun by getting them to blow bubbles, or getting them to blow a whistle, or even simply tracing their hand. So as they breathe in, and as they breathe out, and they breathe in, and they breathe out, and breathe in, and breathe out. So they're kind of connecting with their body, with their breath, as well, and regulating their breathing and slowing their breathing down. So you want your breathing to be, and this is at rest, obviously when you're exercising, it's different. But you always want to be breathing with the nose, diaphragm soft and slow. That's the way to go.
And breathe and learn how to breathe out, actually. I'm sure kids naturally do that, and then we kind of get out of it through like the modernity that we live in and grow up in. I mean, I'm definitely like one of those breathe too much, quickly in people. I'm trying to work on the exhale. When in doubt, breathe out. I've got like you in my head.
Yes.
When in doubt, breathe out.
Yes. But this is a powerful tool.
Yes, it's
right.
That's
the
magic
straw.
one. You've got a bag of
this
tricks
magic
there.
One. Yes. Yes, my very expensive piece of equipment in the form of a straw. Yes. But this is for adults and kids, because when you breathe in and when you breathe out through the straw, you're naturally slowing your breathing down and allowing your lungs to empty.
Guys, that wraps up the whole of season 1. It was just such an amazing journey. It was the season that I went pro. I managed to just take the turn to go pro, and I managed to collaborate with the best editor that I could have ever wished to collaborate. Shout out to you, Miguel, who has taken our podcast from something that was just sort of like a dream that I thought I would do for like a side hustle to something that's actually pro. And for that, I'm really, really grateful. Guys, I'll see you when season 2 starts at the beginning of June.
Thank you for spending this time with me. I love getting to know my listeners. So please do subscribe to my YouTube channel and on your chosen podcast app. Engage with me in meaningful conversation on my comment-friendly blog, and send me an email to share your self-directed life story. My website address is the Free2BCuriouspodcast.com, and my email address is carla@free2bcurious.com. I really look forward to getting to know you.